Thank you so much for joining me today on Ladies, Leadership and Logistics. It's an honor to have you today. As a young woman entering the world of global business and supply chains, I am always curious how leaders like you are at such a high position and still so authentic and people centered. My personal experience with you makes me aware of how compassionate, kind, and awesome you are. So, in order to begin with today's conversation, my first question is, would you please guide us and tell us more about your journey and what shaped your leadership path?
Thank you, Ayushi. First of all, I'm really humbled by this beautiful introduction, and I couldn't just, return the same words to you. And speaking of humbleness, desire to have an impact, and being yourself, staying true to yourself. So, thank you for the invitation. I'm currently in Belgium, so in Brussels. I'm now, we're broadcasting from Brussels, but
Indeed.
originally I'm Romanian and started, I'm a proud mother and a wife, first of all, and enjoying very much the positive things that happen in our lives, no matter the times. Professionally wise, I've started many years back in various FMCG companies. And I am now almost 20 years in Coca-Cola system, as we call it. So working in various countries in Eastern and Central Europe and now in West Europe. So over the years, I led the various teams in Romania, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland, Baltics, and now here in Belgium and Luxembourg.
Those are a lot of places indeed. And 20 years with one company is crazy. I personally get so surprised when I read that time span of 20 years, 15 years with one company. I feel like it's both the person as well as the company who's doing it right to have that many years of contribution to it.
That's right. It sounds crazy also when I'm articulating it as right now, because actually, every year and a half, every year and 8 months on average, I was making this calculation. I changed my role in a significant way, either geography, either type of business that I was handling, because we used to, we're having not only the soft drinks as such, but we have a stills business, we have a water business, we have energy drinks business. So there are a lot of areas that you can learn in this type of large corporations, like Coca-Cola probably is one of the biggest in the world, obviously.
Yeah, indeed.
So there was a lot of learning and a lot of satisfaction and curiosity that I was able to tap into.
That is so great. Like you have led across so many countries and cultures. Like, what was one of the biggest leadership lesson that you learned in the whole 20 years of lifespan? Professional journey, of course.
It's hard to choose one, but the one that just comes this instance into my mind, which probably is the biggest, since it's really top of mind, is the first time when I moved from my home country with my family in a neighboring country in Bulgaria. But that also coincided with moving from a marketing, predominantly marketing type of career into a big sales role. So I was leading the sales team for Bulgarian bottling operation for Coca-Cola. And that was the biggest leadership experience. I was a leadership learning because I needed to more and more rely on my team. I was not speaking the language. Romanian and Bulgarian are very different. One is Latin, the other one is Slavic country. So I was not speaking the language. I was still a marketeer at heart. So my style and my technical knowledge was coming from a different, let's say, had a different blend versus a traditional sales focus. And that was my biggest lesson, Ayushi, of making sure I with full heart, I trust my team in the sense of planning and sharing with clarity the strategy, but then giving full empowerment to the team and trusting them full heart that they're going to scale it down, to cascade it down in the best way, so that together we achieve the impact. That was one side. And second was also a lesson connected to the way we juggle with the personal and the professional life. Because moving in a new country with the full family, etc., it's always a complex thing. So that really required another set of skills that I needed to practice, to learn from, in order to make sure I'm also a joyful human being, not only a successful professional.
Indeed. And for me, I moved single, like as an individual to a different country, and it still felt so different, like the language barriers, different people, the different mindsets. I can imagine, like, if you move to such a different country, like your mindset and the way you have seen the way people function and your whole team functioning differently, it would have been really hard, right?
Every one of us is having their own, learning from the hard paths for the smoother paths. Your story and how you were describing your huge willingness to change and learn was super inspiring. So there is no story better than others. It's just the way we filter that experience and what we take out of it. That's why we call it leadership lesson. But frankly, it's just growing up in becoming a better version of ourselves. So some people are crumbling within the, I don't know, pressure of what life gives them. Others are just blossoming in
Going
that,
with the
right?
flow.
So it is a personal choice ultimately to see what you learn, how you grow bigger and stronger and more beautiful out of that.
Yes, that's such an important lesson. I agree. Like you can either go with the flow or just act as an obstacle in the water path, like the flow of life, I say.
Yeah, exactly.
Coca-Cola, as you said, it's such a big, successful organization with the global matrix structure. What's like one smart move which a person as young as me who would start off as an intern or early level early level role should do in order to stand out, even as a small dot in the big organization, like to create an identity?
First, let me tell you one thing that I also realized that that it's not only speaking about how you, I mean, it's enlarging the circle even outside of an organization, but it's valid also within. So reaching out as you do now. So finding a point of authentic curiosity, like you're having it now, learning from others, asking the questions, but also going with the flow, like we do now in this conversation. So making more of that. So finding a true vertical pillar in your curiosity, and then reaching out and asking people for not only for advice, but also for a point of view. Reaching out, it's such an undervalued, I would say, skill or, I don't know, action. And we all tend to be taken by the wave of things to do, tasks to solve, etc., etc. So my one advice, which I'm also, by the way, reflecting myself as I'm now and trying to do more and more every day in a scheduled way, in a programmed, in a prioritizing it in a week, in a day, in a schedule, is reaching out to people that are different than yourself or to the ones that you're closer with, and curiously asking, trying to understand, trying to learn, but also trying to build up your own skills, trying to build up your own points of view. Because currently, as we are doing now, right, each of us will learn from each other. So networking, it's a very cliche word nowadays, but it's so important, not from a selfish standpoint, but from a rich, generous, fluid point of view of learning and getting your ideas across and understanding what's happening outside.
True. And like it's about that expanding that little idea that you have. So like if the way we have always spoken, like I would like to add it here. So I know Natalia ma'am because she interviewed me for an internship role that I had applied to Coca-Cola. And the best part about her is that she agreed to give me a personalized feedback, and a general manager at such a high position agreeing for personal feedback to an intern is showing how compassionate, kind, and awesome a leader and a human being that she is. So thank
Oh,
you, ma'am, for that part.
thank you.
And
It's
I believe that it's people like you who make the idea of networking easier. That okay, people are there like you to help and to contribute and make life a little easier.
Thank you
your
so much
advice.
for this.
Yeah.
It's also very easy because not that many people are so eager for this type of feedback. And also building on feedback, it's a human nature. Sometimes you receive feedback, but the question is, how you receive it? What do you do with it? How true is that feedback as well, right? Because it doesn't mean that if it's, so I'm also very much energized by, interacting and learning from you, Ayushi, from your energy, the way you are framing the questions, the way your curiosity, which is your generation's curiosity in the positive sense, creates an impact in this world. So I have a lot of things to learn myself. So thank
That's
you for that.
really kind, ma'am. Thank you so much for the great words. It really matters a lot. And I believe like it's important to have the guidance. And when people like you agree to do that, it helps. It was our last conversation that pushed me to come up with this idea that you should do something. You have the capability. So I did.
Amazing. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
Did you,
Yeah.
as you said, that find someone who would align and can guide you? So, did you have a mentor or a sponsor who really believed in you and helped you with the journey, especially in the very beginning when you were as new as I am today?
I did not have one. I had a group of those, and I never thought of them like giving them the title of mentor and something. Maybe because I'm coming from a country where, I mean, we've been for so many years under communist regime, and there are a whole ideas, let's say the Western ideas of mentorship, sponsorship, progressing into a career with a career plan were so new to me. So I'm turning 50 this year, and then when I was starting, it was always like, I mean, it was really a new world when I was starting in my professional life. So I was learning a lot from a lot of people to whom, as you do now, I was there with my whole enthusiasm, willing to learn, to try to do the things in a way that I would understand what I enjoy to do most. So, but I had a group, maybe not more than, I would say, over the years, 3 or 4 people that I constantly reach out to when I was concerned or unclear or confused about something. And I did that in full trust. Some people have one person to go to, but that was more on the professional network. But then on the personal side, I was always very blessed with a simple but beautiful family. So my parents were very simple people, not really educated in the way we would quote that today, but really emotionally very rich, especially my mother, who was always for me as a friend, I would say. So a lot of the wonders I was having in this new world where, that opened up after a year of dictatorship were also coming out of discussions, basic discussions over coffee, for instance, with my mother. And later with my husband, who is also my husband, but my best friend as well. So we discuss a lot openly about options. So there is always that's the beauty of these types of lives, when you move and you see and you're exploring the world and the opportunities ahead, not only the fears, that you can really have wonderful dialogues. You're not alone, right? Be it professionally, but also personally. And sometimes these connections are richer and can elevate a day or a week or a year much more than any titles or any wealth, sometimes even. So yeah, that's my, it's not a very clear, specific answer. I cannot give 1, 2, 3,
I believe
but
this
it's,
is way more easier and better to understand because rather than just a single line going like, oh, my husband and my father did it for me, it's better
yeah,
to get a whole idea because the
yeah,
way I see it is there's no black and white anymore as we thought when we were kids. There's no 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a mixture. It's a colorful life. So it's gonna be a mix of everything. But my one important question that's in my head is so I reached out to you like the way I did, but people are not exactly aware of how to reach out. Sometimes they come off as selfish, self promotional, and like just asking for something. So, can you guide us as to what's the correct way of reaching out or even increasing visibility without sounding very selfish and self promotional?
okay. Actually, actually, maybe we can play back the way, the way you prepared for the discussion, for the interview we had. Because I can, if I may ask you, how you how you reached out, let's say, in that interview. What was your strategy to
So for
connect with me or the others in the panel?
I didn't know I would get question back. But so for me, the first thing I did was use ChatGPT. I gave it a proper idea because for me, the way I talk, I also go very up and down in my words. Like there's no standard way I talk. So I had to explain GPT that when I came up with this, my idea was there are already many podcasts taking place, but those people are at the same level. Both of them are experienced, but in my case the difference is I am going to be asking questions. It's going to be more of a student teacher relation. So I asked GPT that helped me reach out to people who will be willing and helpful with the whole idea of and explain them the idea in the way I explained it to you.
Yeah.
And the way I did it is I have also taken into consideration the cultural differences. So when I reach out to people from Western culture, I am using the words like dear, the name, dear Natalia ma'am. And when I'm reaching out to people in India, so in India, the culture has to be a sir ma'am culture. So I
Mm-hmm.
do ensure to add dear XYZ ma'am, sir, because it sounds like I'm being more respectful. But in a Western culture, respect is not with the ma'am and sir. They are more like, I would prefer my name because it's more friendly and more
Yeah.
connected, I'd say. But
Yeah.
yeah, so, and it was also like I came across a LinkedIn post where someone had posted this that the person took offense because the reacher had said, dear XYZ person. And like that was
Mm.
an 18 person. And I went through the comment. I was so curious to know like why the offense side. And they were like, in India, you have been taught since a very young age to be respectful by using words like sister, brother, sir, ma'am. You have to use those words. Otherwise, it's just a notion that it's
Yeah.
disrespectful. So I just
Yeah.
filtered that part mainly, but yeah, it was the whole one was, and I didn't want to be coming off as a very, I would say, long message person. So I made sure my message had one, it was quite direct, but kind and respectful. Second, it explained the whole idea in short words, like pointer one, two, three, what I was aiming at doing. And point three was, please let me know if you would be willing to do it. And fourth, I used the call of action. I would love to know your free time slots. Yeah, as soon
Perfect.
as possible.
So you see, you now you just gave a clear, a
Breakdown, yeah.
structured breakdown of your own approach, which was true to you. So you used the
Yeah.
tool, you used
Mhm.
ChatGPT, but you also had your cultural lenses. So you
Yeah.
had this sensitivity in approaching the possible relation with people you did not know,
Mhm.
while being appreciative and recognizing there is an element of intangible element that goes into the culture differences or commonalities that sometimes, I mean, this shows a lot of emotional intelligence and many people don't do that. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing. And it was visible in our interview discussion, the first one, but then in all our conversations.
Mhm.
So that is something that I would, I mean, you just answered a part of the
The
question that
question, yeah.
also and that is clearly starting from thinking what is the background, what is the, as people say, what's reading the space in the room, right, the space between the people or the space in the virtual room, or the, what is the background, having a minimum level of research about that person or the other. Oh, it's obvious, obviously it helps, but then structuring the questions from the angle, again I'm going back to the angle of the vertical genuine interest, not just reaching out in order to show off, or I don't know, to say
Yeah.
I'm here, and then, because then that might be self-promotion, as you said, that might be seen as a self-promotion. In your case, because you're having this core pillar of genuine curiosity about one or another, because you made your research, but also you're clear what would you like to achieve from various reaching out actions
Yeah.
across, that
Mhm.
makes it a memorable, a meaningful encounter, not just self-promoting. So indeed, nowadays you see a lot of these actions that are really like headlines in newspapers and all that. in my view, maybe it's a very I don't know, old-fashioned kind of, but I really think I'm really a strong believer into meaningful connections, meaningful. So those that ultimately we are on in these lives, with an ultimate objective of feeling, rich, fulfilled inside, and having a meaningful existence, you might say, without sounding philosophical, and that connecting with the right people, connected with people that you feel energized while you work with them or you just meet them. It can be someone that you just meet for 2 minutes or even less in an elevator, right? I'm sure it happened to you. These are meaningful connections that sparkle like sunshine in a day or in a life. So you're doing the right thing. That's how I think the conversations and connections between people and people, going back to the nice chain, or infinite chain symbol in your logo, ladies, leadership and logistics, can really blossom like a flower, right? Ultimately, because you need to flow that. You need to follow the flow in a way on that conversation.
True. And I like for me, if I can add, if for you, like you are not specifically related to logistics sector, but I really knew that talking to you about leadership is gonna be like the best part of my conversation. So I had to even add that paragraph that I know you are not from the sector, but I'm reaching out for the leadership part. So the person even doesn't get confused that your need is different, but I don't serve that. Are you sure you want to talk to me? Because it's important to alter your messages as per your need as well.
It
So
does. And logistics is really an issue. One of the most, one of the areas that I think is the most complex especially in the world we live today. But it's in general, it does require such a deep leadership skills that in any position, you don't have to have the title manager, director, or I don't know, officer. And it really does. It's always problem solving, but also, to your point, having always an element of what's happening outside, technology. I don't know, now where, for instance, the world moves into working with agents, right? And speaking about AI, so it's different than working with suppliers and things and having analysts that do that. So probably supply chain will be one of the, and it is already one of the sectors that uses and should use more and more, obviously, this types of abilities. So who's leading that with a human touch? That will be the magic, right? Who is leading this whole thing with a human touch? And I think you are having really a clear willingness and joy in learning all that, but also not forgetting that in the world of machines and technology, we are all human beings that need to end up a day and go to bed while being happy that another nice day has passed and you have achieved something and you were one step further in your path to become a better you. So that's why it really doesn't matter what we have in our titles or which companies we work for. Ultimately, it's about how we lead ourselves, how we lead teams, how we lead people. And logistics, of course, is just a part of that.
That is such a heavy but so important life lesson that you just gave. And I believe that the more I'll be able to apply this life lesson to my daily life, the more satisfied I would say I would feel about it. Like rather than running behind the whole titles of having that specific positions, the more I feel like, okay, I'm making an impact, it's gonna make me sleep better.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
It does matter. And one of my favorite points that I would love to talk about is your Forbes Women Polska interview. You had mentioned that it is so important to be daring, authentic, and compassionate as the most important needs of being a leader. Can you share one of your best experiences where you felt that these paid off and helped you navigate a challenge?
Yes. And thank you for framing it this way. One thing that comes to mind now is the times when there were difficult political and economical times, but especially political times in Poland when I was there, because the war in Ukraine started just as I was moving into the role, and that is, I mean, it was not only from the it was the human impact that was creating the biggest. It was the biggest humbling learning for me. So Poland, by the way, it's a country with an extremely brave and generous people that went through a very difficult history themselves over the years, over the centuries. And when the war started and there were a lot of people fleeing from the war-torn Ukraine in the first weeks, coming to Poland and looking for shelter, basically, families, women, children. So the level of solidarity that the people showed instantly without being asked by someone to do that. So genuinely opening the doors and hosting families that were in need, or all kinds of support, and being there. And so all in, how to say, with a lot of humbleness, almost in silence, we could say. I mean, there was nobody showing off. We did that. It was just there. We were there for people in need. That was something that goes beyond work, obviously, beyond being in a certain position in a certain company. So it was really an experience that taught me more, and I'm still blessed. Consider myself blessed of being a part of those times with my team, with my friends, without trying to help as much as we could in those times, obviously. And that was maybe the time when the whole compassion and the values as a person are, how to say, are really helping the most, more than anything you learned in school, more than, I don't know, the P&L or the financial, elements of the business that you represent. It's all going there. You're there for a reason, and the impact is going in that sense. So those times were for my team and myself were extremely important times when we show that the drive to influence and support with compassion, but also being there, as rational as we could. So we help while at the same time we solve some of the situations, or we contribute to solving those situations. So that was the biggest, one of the most intense times in my life. And I have also learned a lot, and I still feel very humbled for being there. And maybe, able to support as much as we could. Maybe it's not a typical example of the right of the, I don't know, it's not directly linked to business, but in terms of the way my team, ourselves, all of us, we felt like we are one. And that mattered more than any business plan or anything. And it really brought us together, and in the bigger scheme of things, in a time of adversity, and connected us for life, I would say, more than any team buildings or other initiatives that would be more corporate driven. So it all starts with the heart, I think, in any circumstance. It all starts with who we are as people. And if the connection and the groups are aggregated in a meaningful way, going back to meaningful way, then also impact in business is visible, and being driven in business is, again, visible. You're doing it not with a fist, but with the energy that comes genuinely from a group that has like a big common heart.
And I believe this was the best example, not just of group work and working together, but it was more of a humanity that makes it even more important as a life lesson.
Yeah, and again, this was just a small portion of help, because the biggest help was given by everyone, person by person, the people that were there to open the doors and help with any mean they had, others in need. What a beautiful lesson of life, isn't it?
Indeed. And people standing up for each other is, in hard times especially, is one of the best things to realize, and best times to understand humanity, that we are together.